Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Divorce-A-Palooza. So, one of the main themes I believe when you're getting divorced is loneliness. That feeling of dropping off your kids at your soon to be exes, and then you come home and it's like, whoa, now what? I'm sitting home by myself. And the first few weeks is really, really hard. And I remember even personally myself, I would just drink wine by myself to calm myself down. And that's not like me. So I believe that people who are newly separated try to soothe themselves a lot of times with alcohol. And so, what we want to talk about today, my guest and I, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, is loneliness, substance abuse, and how it can affect co parenting. And my guest is Thy-An Tran, and Thy-An is with Soberlink, one of my favorite companies. Thy-An, welcome.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
And I say that, TM, that they're one of my favorite companies. I really mean it because what SoberLink is doing is helping kids stay safe and helping parents stay safe and really managing somebody who might be overdoing it in the alcohol area. But we're going to get into what SoberLink does. But I want to ask you about what you thought about what I said about loneliness.
Yeah, definitely. We do a lot of testimonials and get stories from our clients, and that is a thing that a lot of them say. And it's really important that you mention kind of the human side of it, like they're lonely because they're not seeing their children anymore, and so therefore you might be drinking a little bit more than you normally do. Doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. It just means that you are coping in one way or another. And we always say that addiction is disease. And some people, if they are drinking more, are just more prone to have a little bit more of a problem than other people might have. So, yeah, the isolation can be really bad in causing somebody to drink more. Again, doesn't mean that they're a bad parent. It actually means they're a good parent. They miss their children, but it can lead to some bad outcomes.
Absolutely. And I remember when I was in therapy, when I was first get separated, and my therapist would say to me, you really need to watch it because people getting divorced are susceptible to alcoholism because you are under such stress and emotional strain that you're at a higher risk than you would be normally. Now, for people who are watching this, we're talking about you, and then also you might be saying, this is like I'm thinking of my soon to be ex. So it could be either one of you or both.
Right.
So it's definitely well documented that there's a link between emotional strain and addiction. And
Mhm.
so, Tian, what are some signs that a co-parent is abusing alcohol?
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about two things. So one, to answer your question, some signs, and we get this information from, treatment professionals and lawyers, because we're not specialists ourselves. However, we hear a lot of if they're being a little bit more defensive or secretive in things that they're doing. Maybe their habits or attitudes are a little bit different than they normally are. Maybe they're a little bit more angry. So just I think changes overall could be a sign that something is wrong. But I do want to talk a little bit about the other side as well. So, say your situation, you said that you drank a little bit more than you normally do. Doesn't necessarily mean you have a problem. However, your co parent might want to make it seem like a problem to take your kids away even more than you already don't have them. Which we see as a really, really big problem as well. So I think it's on both sides. Yes, there are signs that somebody might be having a problem because of the isolation. And then there's the other side. Well, they're coping, yes, but it doesn't mean that they have this full on problem that you need to take the children away even more, because then it might push them into more isolation, more addiction. So it's just a cycle that we need to be really careful about.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I didn't even think of that. You're right. And maybe the other parent is not doing it to spite you, they might see you drinking more and think, "Ooh, now I think my ex is an alcoholic," because they've never seen you drink this much, even though you might not be an alcoholic, but they are worried about it, and so they might go there to that thing. And so I said we weren't going to get into SoberLink till later, but I think we have to talk about it now because it makes perfect sense. So, SoberLink is a way for you to prove your sobriety. Or, well, Tian, tell me if that's correct. And tell me
Exactly.
what SoberLink is besides.
Yeah, so that's basically what it is. It is a way in all those situations, whether the person is having a problem, whether they're not having a problem, whether they're being accused of having a problem, it is exactly that. It helps you actually prove or get proof, if you're on the other side, that the parent is sober, at least when they're around the kids. So, for SoberLink, we have a couple different options just to have it help every situation. So, one parent, if you really are having a problem, if the isolation has cause like a full-blown addiction and you need to be in recovery, you can test on SoberLink every single day. And how it works is it's a portable breathalyzer, you blow into it, and the results get sent immediately to whoever needs to receive them. The really important features that we have include facial recognition and tamper detection, which is just fancy ways of saying you can't cheat it. Because if you are having these problems with addiction and you really do want to spend time with your kids, you might want to bypass the system to kind of cheat and show that you haven't been drinking to make sure that you can still spend time with them, which could be dangerous for the children. It could be dangerous for your own addiction. So we make sure that that doesn't happen. And then we also have options where you're only showing that you're sober around your kids because the situations we've been talking about were, well, I don't have a full blown problem, but my co-parent is really concerned that my drinking has spiked. Well, at the very least, I can show them, hey, when I'm with my kids, I'm not drinking, and you have the proof to see that.
I absolutely love this. So there's so many different scenarios, and what I want to tell people watching is you can ask your divorce lawyer to ask for SoberLink to be used in your case. This
Yeah.
way, because if you go to your soon to be ex and say, "Hey, I want you to start using SoberLink," what do you think they're going to say? But if it's in your court case, they're going to say, "Okay, I'm either not going to see my kids or I'm going to use SoberLink." And if there truly isn't a problem, then SoberLink shouldn't be a problem. And they shouldn't even be offended. They should actually be like, "Wow, she really cares about our kids enough for me to ask me to use SoberLink." Another thing, Tian, have you ever heard stories about people who used SoberLink and then woke up and realized that they had an addiction?
All the time. We have so many stories of people who are like, "I didn't realize how much I was drinking around my kids." That's literally what they say, and they say, "This made me realize I don't wanna do that anymore," and a lot of people just stopped drinking altogether. It's up to them, it's their own choice, but it is exactly what you said, it's like a wake-up call saying, "Okay, yeah, if I did care about my kids, which is why I started this, and if I really do, why am I still drinking around them?"
See, this is why I said SoberLink's one of my favorite companies. Now, what about the kids? Do we hide this from the kids? Do we say, "Kids, we're using this"? Do the kids ever say to their parents, like, "Daddy's drinking a lot, mom. Every time I go there, he's having, a case of beer." How are
Yeah.
they involved in this?
So we always like to say that children shouldn't be involved at all, and which is why SoberLink is so important because without SoberLink, you can't imagine those types of questions. Was dad drinking? Was mom drinking? And they have to be like the police in the situation. So we always say SoberLink takes them out of the equation. The parents can figure that out with SoberLink, whether or not they've been drinking, so the kids can be kids. But we have heard stories of clients where the kids are really proud of their parents and they're really excited. They understand what's going on. We've had clients who their kids put little stickers on their case saying like, "Oh, like good job." So as much as we want to keep kids out, like they're smart, they know, and a lot of times it strengthens the relationship between them and their parents.
It probably depends a lot on age too. The teenagers for sure know, even the young ones, but we're talking the ones you want to keep out of it are like toddlers, babies.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So let's talk about a couple strategies for managing loneliness and substance abuse and reducing addiction risks. So,
Yeah.
the first thing is strengthen your support network.
Yep. So that's huge. Again, a big part of SoberLink because SoberLink is used in family law, but it's also used in addiction recovery. So it's staying connected with people. They always say addiction is a disease of isolation. So SoberLink is actually a really good way. You don't have to just send the results to your co-parent. You can send them to your parents, your loved ones, other family members who it's just a way for them to check in with you without being invasive and asking you all the time, "Hey, are you drinking?" So Soberlink can help with that, but overall, just staying connected to people.
Absolutely. And that's so healthy for your divorce too.
Yeah.
Staying connect forget let's take the whole drinking component out of it. Just staying healthy and not feeling lonely is even going for a walk with a friend or meeting a friend for coffee. So, for example, let's say your kids are with your ex for the weekend and you're feeling really depressed. Instead of having a couple glasses of wine by yourself, if you meet a friend for coffee and that's the only person you see all day, that's okay. At least you saw someone and you got out of the house. And so, especially for older people, like people over 50, they say like you really have to be social. It prevents loneliness, isolation. So even just a walk with a friend, a coffee, a lunch, a dinner, watch a movie together, really just one thing every day. That's what I would say about that. Okay, next tip for managing this is develop coping strategies. So, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on for somebody who is going through a divorce and you add substance abuse on top. I mean, there's just, it's just a bad cycle if alcohol gets involved and it continues to get involved. So just I think accepting that it's okay that there's a lot going on, accepting that, hey, like I can take some time for myself and give myself self-care. But finding other ways to deal with it other than that alcohol that will bring you down that spiral. So other hobbies, just new things to do that aren't just the same as where you've been, I think is really important.
And also, yes, coping strategies other than that nightly glass or two of wine. I once wrote an article called like that nightly glass of wine. And, they're finding out, by the way, more and more information about how bad drinking is for you anyway,
Mhm.
um, even in moderation. So, just wanna finish the story about how I was drinking so much. I actually decided to start having hot tea when I was feeling anxious, and I started to realize it serves the same purpose. Now, I didn't have an addiction, obviously, or that wouldn't have worked, but just for people who are listening, if you're like, "Oh, I love my glass of wine," just try the tea just for a few days and see if it serves the same purpose, especially during the winter when it's cold. It's very comforting, very soothing, and can really help that stress level, I believe, just as much as a glass of wine. Okay,
Mhm.
one more tip, and this was our last tip, and it was use SoberLink. And I truly believe that SoberLink is invaluable where alcohol abuse is a concern because it's helping you if you're the one using SoberLink. It's helping your relationship with your spouse. It's helping your children. It's helping the quality of the relationship you have with your children, and it's helping you get healthy.
Yeah, definitely. I like that you keep repeating helping because I want to mention that SoberLink, a lot of times people imagine a breathalyzer and you think of criminal reasons, you think of DUIs.
DUI, right?
Yeah, but specifically, we do not do any business. Our CEO and founder, he said, "I'm not." He sold that part. Specifically, everything that we do in our company is designed to help people in recovery or as a co-parent. So it shouldn't feel like a policing type of technology. Like it's meant to help you and help you stay accountable and help you not feel so isolated when you're going through all these things.
Okay, TM, this is how I want to put it in closing because I think that's perfect. SoberLink is not a punishment. SoberLink is your friend. It is the tool that is going to help you either prove that you're not drinking around the kids, so that's your friend,
Mhm.
or prove to yourself, maybe I am drinking too much, maybe I need help. So I absolutely have 100% faith that SoberLink is a wonderful tool. And I want to tell my listeners, if you like what you're hearing and you want to learn more, and you go to soberlink.com, use the link soberlink.com/DGS for Divorce Girl Smiling because you get $50 off your device. So, TM, thank you so much for being on Divorceapalooza. Love
Thank
the
you.
conversation.
Yes, you're always so awesome. We appreciate it. And yeah.
Well, we appreciate you too. And to my listeners, you can find again SoberLink at soberlink.com/DGS. And you can also find SoberLink in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling, which is divorcedgirlsmiling.com.